that core philosophy of getting control, of unwieldy, out of control government is here to stay. We believe in what we believe in. And the members of the legislature that are part of this, the new Senate majority, the supermajority, I never thought in my life I'd ever see this, but we have established ourselves. They know they have a mandate. They also know that all of you are watching. And let me tell you something. Along 2008, we had some Republicans that got a little squishy, for lack of a better word. But what brought them back was folks like you who engaged themselves, who participated, who came back into the system and said enough is enough. Michigan has done nothing but spiral downward. We saw almost 1 million jobs leave our state in less than a decade. Our personal income is going down. Consumer confidence is going down. We're the only state to lose population, and we probably would have lost more if our property values were of any value at all. This state is hurting, and yet there are certain people, including some Republicans, who only want to cling to the status quo, as though that's done a lot for us. It's done nothing for us. In fact, it's put us in the hole that we're in. And as a very young child, I was taught by my father that if you first find yourself in a hole, the very first thing you do is stop digging. And this state continues to keep on digging. I had a reporter say to me, about a year before my term was out, what do we do about this anchor around our neck? And I said to him, the anchor is not around our neck. We've been given the anchor. We're holding it like this, and we're sinking to the bottom. All we have to do is let go. And it really does not occur to a lot of folks that that is indeed the case. But this brings us full circle. The reason why we were so successful in this last election, the reason why Governor Snyder was elected was because you believed in this concept of common sense in government. It's not about Republicans or Democrats. The Republicans are crazy if they think that's the case. That somehow just by virtue of the fact there's no other party out there, you're gonna all fall in behind them. No. You're all watching very closely. And now is the time in Michigan. They have a mandate, but the only folks that they've heard from are the naysayers out there. The union folks are part of this, but it's not just the union folks. I mean, there are a lot of other people that are part of the entitlement philosophy of government who want to stop this transformation in its tracks, despite the fact there was a mandate in this last election. It's our responsibility to get on board with these folks. I'll tell you what, this governor, our previous governor, never put a balanced budget on the table. My head's still bleeding from beating my head against the wall because I could never, ever get her to be honest with her presentation. She would produce budgets that were balanced but had huge $900 million holes in them, and she'd still call it balanced. It's like looking at this can and saying it's square. But she used to do it. Now this is a bit of therapy for me to be in this crowd and talk to you. And so I apologize if I go off a little bit, but the key to all this is to make sure that we give credit where credit is due. You've got a governor who was given a mandate. He's put a plan on the table. Not all of us agree with everything, but doggone it, the budget balances. And he's showing leadership. Now it's up to the legislature to put a plan in place. The governor proposes, the legislature disposes. That's what their job is. So they're in that process right now. And they've got a lot to do. They've got a $1.8 billion budget shortfall. And then they've got another $1.5 billion hole blown in this budget because they're talking about replacing the MBT with a smaller, less aggressive business tax. So this is the time we need to be involved. And this is the time we need to go out there and support them. We can't just let the naysayers dominate this discussion. We can't point at Wisconsin and say, look at all the protests out there. We can't concede to that. We cannot allow them to run the national dialogue about what needs to be done in this country. If we don't change the status quo right now, it'll be too late. In Washington, D.C., they stare at the face of this iceberg, and they say, don't steer on it, just steer right through it. That's what they're saying right now. They don't care. And the only way we're going to get them to come around is if we let our voices be heard. And in order to do that, I highly recommend that you stay together and that you Start the Facebook campaign, the viral campaigns. Those are super effective. Post everywhere. Be on the internet as much as you can. And get folks to make calls to offices and really be a part of that. I highly recommend that we come together as a group and we start marching on Lansing and supporting our legislators. These guys have to make some tough decisions, but they're the right decisions. So whatever we can do to help, I think we need to do that. We can't just let other folks come in and protest. Otherwise, they're going to win, and we can't afford to let them win. So my hat's off to them. I wish that I were there, part of this team. I feel like a four-wheel drive with my parking brake on, and I'd love to be a part of this effort because there's a lot of great things going on, and I admire them. I'm a huge fan.
Thank you, former Majority Leader Bishop. So I definitely want to take your questions. I guess I also wanted to touch on the budget and expenditures. Some people say we got to cut more, and I hear that we got to cut more. When I said that, the governor's proposal is to fill that $1.5 billion deficit approaching with all cuts. He did that, just so you know, basically with dealing with the 450,000 employees we have at the state and local level. Now you can't go in right now. They had proposed an amendment. I think there's still a proposal for a 5% cut. If you cut 5% of all those 450,000, there's 50,000 state employees. Most of them are in the cities, school districts, and universities. That would save about a 1.1 billion, I think it was, 1.2 billion, and then made the 80-20 so that they had to at least pay 20% of their health care. That's another 600 million. So you pretty much have all of your cuts there, if you could do it. But there's 2 constitutional amendments last session to do that. What Governor Snyder is doing, he's proposing a significant, not significant, a 4% cut, just belt tightening for school districts that you're hearing a lot of issues with. He's going to reduce the revenue sharing. He's going to reduce universities. But he's doing that, and then that's why that emergency manager was really to drive the unions back to the table, because somehow those school districts have got to get that savings, and those districts are not going to come to the unions are not going to come to the table just because they want to. They need to come to the table because if they don't, there's going to be an emergency, and now the emergency manager can come in there with teeth and make the changes that have to be made. They're not unfair. It's just you could fix it yourself, or you could wait, and we're going to fix it for you, because if you go belly up, we're on the hook. The state taxpayers are all on the hook if you accumulate the debt and go belly up. So we're not going to let that happen. So all the discussion about, we're dictators and all that stuff, no, you just don't go into an emergency. We've got some belt tightening to do. We haven't been living in reality. Tighten your belt, or we're going to do it for you. And so that's kind of what happened there. So the cuts that he's proposing were to the schools, the universities, the cities, and then all of the 50,000 state workers. He said he's going to get about $4,000 each from them. He said 180 million, 200 million. So that's kind of where we're at. I think that they're still got a lot better benefits and a lot better pay. Their pay has been going up 20%, while ours went down 20% in the last decade, according to the Census Bureau. So those are reforms when we look at the big picture. But then within each department, there are also other areas. So I don't know. We can keep talking, or we can listen to you and let you direct where you'd like us to go. Again, I'm thinking it's how to get engaged, and not necessarily particulars about this DCH line item or this DHS line item. But you can kind of take it in any direction you want, I guess.
Go ahead. A question that I have. I realize that there's several unions that represent state employees. Is there a general amount that state employees contribute towards their health care premiums, or is it a broad range of contributions that is in place?
The state has a program, a health care plan, and it's very, very cushy. I'll be the first to tell you, I'm now in the private sector, and it's a totally different world. And as you all know, I don't carry, I don't have benefits outside of the legislature. We don't have it, but I'll tell you that in my experience, there has been a lot of pushback on how that's handled. In the Senate, I was responsible for the Senate healthcare, and the Secretary of the Senate came to me with an $80,000 increase one year in our healthcare. And the idea, she basically said, just sign up, we'll do this, we've got money for that. But there's no way in the world I would have ever signed off on that. And what I did is I scaled back all of our health care. I asked for contributions. I required healthy lifestyles to get discounts. And I also increased copays and got rid of whole coverages. I had to do that. And we actually cut back our health care. But that's not the mentality of government. It's not their money. So they'll just pay for it any way they can. They're not going to try and find savings. Interestingly enough, the Speaker of the House last time around had a proposal to kind of pool everybody,
Right.
which, other than the huge board that he wanted to go along with it sounded like a very, there's some great savings there. And you got to give them credit. And I hope that they take something like that up again. I think they probably will. But the Mackinac Center has said that if we just true up what the private sector and the public sector has in healthcare and salaries, we could save as much as $5.7 billion just by truing it up. Annually.
Yeah, I was at a meeting where an expert from Mackinac Center was talking about healthcare as it relates to teachers. And this person said that out of the 550 school districts that exist in the state of Michigan, there are 300 where teachers contribute nothing towards their healthcare premiums.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's on, they have the database on their website, mackinac.org, and you can go and, I've already used it to rebut some claims that we give. So, yeah.
So I encourage everybody to
And
look at the website and
agree
find
with
out
you.
what their teachers are paying.
I agree with what you're saying is, we've got so many different appropriations committees, whatever, and just as Joe's citizen here, I'd like to know how we can get engaged, because if it isn't healthcare, it's the roads. Our state is falling apart, and if we as citizen groups can put the magnifying glass or the bright light and find out, develop a system for doing that for all these different departments, whether it's education, the roads, the benefits the state employees are getting, but somehow we need to find out how this infrastructure works at state government, so that, I don't know where to go, if I were to go home and get on the internet and start looking for where are these appropriation meetings, when do they meet, how do I find out if I'm able to go, that type of thing. So I guess if you can walk me through, how do you find out when these meetings take place, and are they scheduled like for tomorrow, or are they scheduled weeks in advance? How does that work?
Yeah, well, a committee is required to give 18 hours notice, I believe. 6 hours? Oh, okay. At any rate, it may happen pretty quickly, but the House and the Senate both have websites that we have. All the upcoming meetings are there on the House website. I can let you know if you need to find that out. But this is the issue that we need as a group. If you're actually interested in getting involved and engaged, it can be overwhelming. Which one are you going to deal with? You got 16 budgets, and some are 10 billion, and some are, the transportation is 2 billion, and you've got some of it's federal money you can't touch, and others. So, I would say that we need to come up with a system as the grassroots. You guys, as a Tea Party, I know that every appropriation chair or subcommittee chair, if they knew that there was a Facebook group of 10 or 40 people that said, we're interested in transportation, and I know I'm interested in a lot, but I'll focus on that and see how it goes, I think they'd welcome it, and I think that they would engage you either on that Facebook page so that you could do it from Escanaba or whatever and not have to be in Lansing. I think that the technology is there. We just got to start really trying. We can fail and it may not work. We can try something else. You got any ideas, Mike?
It's designed, I think, to be very difficult to engage in. And part of my disgust with the process is that there's not enough discussion about priorities of state government. You mentioned roads and infrastructure. and what is the core function of government? And